Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you for tuning in for another deep dive of an episode. As in this week's show, we're going to be looking at respect gets results. Also in this week's episode, we have the channeling from the world of spirit, which sees myself being a vessel for spirit to bring their wisdoms and communications through. And then later on in this episode, we have a sneaky peek, or a snippet, if you will, into this week's forecast reading. So let's dive in deep. As I say, we're talking about respect gets results. Now, what do I mean by using that heading? I'm talking about communicating with spirit and your ancestors in the spirit world. And as you can appreciate, it's a very fascinating topic. It also requires a degree of tact, also a degree of experience, patience, and understanding. So we're going to talk about this in some depth today, and I'm going to share with you a few techniques that you may or may not want to employ if you have an intention to communicate with spirit. Now, this doesn't matter whether you're a medium, whether you're sensitive, or you're a passionate paranormal investigator or enthusiast. The techniques will remain the same, and anybody has the ability to communicate with spirit, and most of us are already communicating with spirit without even realizing it. And hopefully after this episode, you'll look at the topic with a different perspective, and you'll be able to use some of these examples to bring forward that communication. So first of all, then, the first thing is always make a point of knowing who you are in your mind, body, and spirit. Now, this may sound absolutely obvious, but sometimes it can be frustrating when we're not getting anything and we think we're not getting anything. But in actual fact, spirit are communicating with us. We're just not familiar with the signs. And by us being knowledgeable of who we are as an individual, so for example, what you like, what you don't like, your thoughts, your thought patterns, the information that you know yourself through your education and through your experience, knowing all of that, being aware that that information is there and you've been taught that information. Also, the emotions that you feel, and knowing yourself as an individual, you'll know that what triggers you, what makes you feel excited, what gets you enthused, and knowing all of those factors. Also knowing the physical body. Now, some of us suffer with various aches and pains, a dodgy back, maybe a limp, or maybe on that particular day you bit your tongue and you're like, ow, I bit my tongue this morning, that hurts still. And just knowing yourself, all of these things, I know it sounds obvious, but it will make sense if you have an understanding of who you are as a person. Also, going a little bit deeper with this, the words that you use in conversation, also your character traits, your mannerisms. You know, some of us, without realizing, can be quite animated with our facial expressions when we're communicating with people. So that's one of our personal traits. Other people may have an affliction like a tic, or, you know, they may use certain swear words quite a lot, and that's just them. So it's good to have this understanding of yourself. And again, I know this sounds very obvious, but the reason why I'm stating the blatantly obvious at this point is because once you know that, then you can understand what is your vibration and what is not your vibration. So to take this a little bit further, something else that I recommend everybody doing if you're wanting to connect or communicate with your spirits or your ancestors, then this is doing a baseline check. And you may have heard on previous episodes when I've spoken up about this. And this is what I consider a very important part before you go ahead and do any of this paranormal or spiritual work. And this is where you check in with yourself. So in that moment when you're consciously wanting to observe yourself, what you're looking for is what your dominant thought patterns are. You may be thinking in your head at the moment of observing, I've got to go shopping later. I really do need to pick that up and I need to do that. And then I've got this job to do. Most of us think that way, and we formulate lists in our mind. So you may be thinking those thoughts. Also, I would get you to observe your emotions as well. How are you feeling in that point in time when you're observing this? Maybe to the outside world, you're giving a projection of feeling happy, elated. But actually in your internal world, you're a little bit deflated, a little bit depressed, but you're just not showing it to the world. So be honest with yourself when you're doing this baseline check. It is very, very vitally important. Also, your physical body as well. Have you, like we said earlier, have you got any aches and pains? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Have you got a rash? Are you scratching your arm? Whatever the situation is. Again, honesty is key at this level. So if you can observe all of those things, all of those elements, and make a mental note of them. Oh, yes, I do that. I am feeling that way. Oh, I didn't realize that till I observed. Then this will play a vital role when you're communicating with spirits. And I'll tell you why this is the fact. Because anything other than those things that you've observed within yourself at that present moment in time potentially will be spirit or energy or an ancestor overlaying you and sharing their story with you and communicating with you on some way, shape or form. The next thing is very important and very vital when you're wanting to reach out and talk to the spirit world is setting clear intentions. What is the objective of the exercise? Are you wanting to connect with maybe a grandparent or whoever? Set those intentions, ask and be respectful when you do it. It's up to you how you go about doing this, but as a rule of thumb, I would suggest respectful, show kindness, show gratitude, and be clear about what you want. With this being said, obviously the spirit world are very, very busy. They can be here, there, and everywhere all at the same time, but they have free will also. And so you can't just demand and command them forward, at will, just because you've said so. But you can put that intention, that request out there. And this is where the respect lies. So you put that request out there, who you'd like to communicate with, and also what you'd like to communicate about, and I'd like to know information about this or that, or can you tell me what it's like over there? Be clear about that and just put that out there. And the way that I do it is I speak it out aloud. And I find that this works a lot better. To some people, they may feel embarrassed about doing this. If you fall into that category, then what I would suggest is you do all of these intentional works before you actually do the either paranormal event or go to the location or whatever you're doing. You can do it in a separate area where you're on your own. You could even do it in the car there as well. But be clear, vocalize it. And the reason why I suggest that is because your intent, your energy, your vibration will also amplify the intention and that vibration, that link to the spirit world, even stronger than you just thinking it. Yes, spirit can use telepathy and communicate with you that way. Of course they can. But when you're taking it to the next level and verbalizing it, then it does help the situation and the energy gets where it needs to. So after doing the setting of intentions, be clear, and just as a rule of thumb, you can't command spirit. You can put the request out there and ask with love and respect and kindness, and you can ask that they come forward with the same values and to bring forward evidential information. That is part of the process of setting intentions. And, then you can put it out there. And once you've done that, something else that is vitally important before you start and communicate with any spirit or any energy is protection, energetic protection. And it is paramount, but you've got to bear in mind that obviously you're wanting that communication with spirit. So when you're asking for your protection, you want to put a little caveat in there so that you can still communicate with spirit, and you can listen, you can experience their vibration, but they're not sticking to you, so to speak. They're not overlaying you, so to speak, and they're not harming you. So it's very important. I mean, protection, we've done an episode on that before where I've spoken about something that I personally do is depending upon the day and depending upon my mood, because as we know, we all change in every single moment, in every single day. And so some days I will ask to be placed in a ball, maybe of purple light, and I visualize this ball of purple light surrounding my physical and energetic body, and I'm inside of that ball, okay? And then I will ask for another form of protection, which is the disco ball. If you remember the disco balls in back in the day, and they were mirror balls, basically. If you imagine that being around you, and the purpose of that is that anybody or anything that is has bad intent and they're projecting that vibration your way, that energy will then be returned back to sender, so it does not stick to you, so to speak. And then in extreme circumstances, two other methods that I use. The next one is I ask to be placed inside of an energetic conch shell with the energetic spikes on. And so if anybody can remember the conkers that we get, during the autumn time here in the UK, they come in this shell, and this shell has these little spikes on. So I ask for that to be placed around myself as well. If you're not familiar with conkers, go and research it on the internet. And once you get a visualization, that will help you to set this in place. And what is interesting at this point, just to share with you, is when you put all of those things on, particularly the conch shell around you, if you happen to go, say, out into town, or you're going shopping or wherever, where there's a lot of people, it's a lot of hustle and bustle, what you'll find when you have that protection around you is that people will avoid you. They'll walk around your aura, your vibration, because it will feel uncomfortable for them, because you have put this energetic protection up around you. So it is very important as well to put a little caveat, if you will, around those intentions with protection. And something that I do is to ask, but I'd like to communicate with spirit who come in the name of love, light, peace, truth, and harmony. And so I do that. If you're wanting to communicate with all forms of spirit, then obviously you would set your intentions to fulfill that, but you still want to be protected. Now, another form of protection that I use, and this is, it's a trigger word that my guides have given me to use, and they've given me permission to share this with you. And this is the word titanium. So if you can imagine titanium, it's a very strong element in itself, isn't it? A strong metal. So just say that word out loud, and that will add to your protection. So protection is paramount when you're working with energy and with spirit, because obviously We don't want to be bringing any of that low vibration, that energy, or leaching energies back with us. So, because it can potentially, if you allow it to, it can drain your vibration. It can put you into thinking negative, feeling negative things, and it can pull your vibration down so that lower based vibrations and energies can drain you and use you as a form of a battery so that they can survive and exist in our realm, in our dimension. So it's very important, as I said at the beginning, that you get to know who you are as an individual, because obviously if you have that as a firm foundation, then you'll know when you feel slightly off par, and you can then do the investigative work and sort of come to the conclusion, actually, I was all right until I went to this event or this location. Maybe it's something that I brought back with me. And then you'll do a body scan, the baseline check. You will be able to decipher if it is something of that nature. But having the protection up there, I would say, is a clear way of knowing that you're safe, you're going to be okay, working and communicating with spirit. The next thing, this is where you arrive at your venue, your location, or wherever you happen to be communicating with spirit, even in your home. I would always recommend doing all of these things ahead of getting any sort of communication. And the next part of the process is being kind. Being kind. It's a simple thing, isn't it? If you was to talk to a stranger in the street and just say, "Oh, you, what time is it, you?" That person would think, what? They'd just ignore you and they'd carry on walking, going about their business, wouldn't they? Excuse me. So showing that respect, hello, introduce yourself, hello, my name is Glenn. And explain your intentions, why you're there. I'm here. I'd like to communicate with you. I'd like to learn about your story. But first of all, I'd like to tell you who I am, and you go about telling spirit who you are, what you do, and why you're there, and how intrigued you are. And so you call out to them and you say, I'd like to invite you in love, in light, peace, truth, and harmony. They're caveats that I personally use, but obviously if you're wanting to connect with vibrations of a different level, then you wouldn't necessarily put those in place. So then you'd call out respectfully, regardless if the energy or the spirits there are quite negative, or the energy is quite negative. Because obviously if you're going to go in there and swear, shout, holler, be direct, it might look good on a camera. It might look good on a camera. It might attract people. It might be great clickbait, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do. And the reason why I say this is because it's going to lower your vibration from the get-go. And this will enable those lower base spirits to latch onto you and match with you vibrationally, and then continue to lower your vibration. And we don't want to be doing that. We want clear communication. We want evidential information. And so this being the case, we want to come from a perspective of love, of respect, and of light. And by introducing yourself and then asking out, what's your name? And where are you from? What did you do? And just gentle questions. Now, in this day and age, and it's been like this for a few years now, there is a general observation that I've observed anyway, that there's a lot of people haven't got the patience anymore. They want everything yesterday. They don't want to sit about, and if it's not coming forthwith, they lose interest very, very quickly. Now, when you're working with spirit, you have to adopt a different frame of mind, because patience is key. It is key with this. It can take time. It can take time. It is what it is. But you've got to remain in your vibration, and you've got to be kind, as I've said, when you're calling out. Introduce yourself and keep that rapport going. Keep it going. And the more you keep it going, the energies will start to build up. The connections will start to blend as well. And this is where spirit will come in. And when they do come in, they will, as long as you're showing that love and that respect and kindness, and you've shared a little bit of who you are, because let's face it, a conversation is a two-way thing. You know, it's give and take, isn't it? If you were talking to somebody in the street again, you know, and it was all me, and you weren't listening to a single word that they were saying, and you weren't giving them opportunity in your communication to speak up, then they would lose interest very, very quickly, wouldn't they? They would lose a lot of interest and their attention will be diverted elsewhere. And it's the same with energy and spirit. So you have to be respectful. You have to leave those gaps in the conversation. You have to listen and observe. Now, what I mean by listening and observing, it's not just about hearing with the physical ears. What you'll be doing as an antenna, shall we say, because as I've mentioned before on previous episodes, we are all transmitters and receivers of energy, of vibration, of information for that matter. And so when you're asking, you're building up a rapport with spirit, you'll feel the energies building up, you'll feel the atmosphere changing in the room. That is an indication to let you know that there is energy, there is spirit there, listening, building up. At that point, it is then your time to observe. Okay, and what I mean by observing, first of all, in my experience, it usually comes in a feeling tone. The feelings kick in first, okay? And I observe those feelings, whether the temperature changes in the room, whether there's an oppressive or a happy feeling in the room, and then I observe how I'm feeling inside of myself. Bearing in mind, I've just done the baseline check, so I know where I'm at vibrationally. So I'm looking for things that are outside of my own parameters, maybe feelings of sadness or, frustration or something like that. I'm just giving examples now. So I've been looking for the feelings, and whilst I'm experiencing them, I wouldn't sit on them, so to speak. I would share, openly communicate what I'm feeling to the group and with other people. And whilst I'm doing that, you've got to think that you're connecting stronger with that link because you're expressing that link, and the energy is building up and your communication is going to improve as you go along. So the next thing, generally for me, what happens is I may start and hear them in my internal mind, in my spiritual ears, so to speak. And to me, this experience, the best way I can describe it is anybody that, everybody has an internal monologue, that voice in your head. When you think a thought and you're thinking, I've got my shopping to do and I've got this to do, you hear a voice, don't you? You hear your own internal voice. Okay. So you know what that sounds like. So when it is a spirit communicator coming forward, sometimes it can be very, very subtle, but that internal voice, you'll hear yourself thinking, and then you'll hear another voice overlaying that. And sometimes it may be a pitch higher, a pitch lower. It may feel more masculine. It may even sound more feminine, but you'll hear those subtleties in that communication. When this first happens to you, first of all, you'll think, I'm just making it up. I'm just imagining it. No, that can't be right. Everybody does it at this stage when you're first doing it. But the thing is getting to know you, as I said at the beginning, and this includes your thoughts, how your internal monologue sounds, and what you experience when you're interacting, using it, the internal monologue. And it's to pay attention. It is very subtle. And once you're aware of that subtlety, you'll then be able to build that confidence up and know for a fact that I didn't think that thought. I wouldn't have said those words. They're not words that I have in my vocabulary. So it can't be me. So be aware of that. Spirit will communicate with you that way. They'll also show you images in your mind. Now, we're all familiar with our imagination, aren't we? And when we have an idea in our head, we see it visually, and we can see it for a brief moment. Sometimes when we go into daydream mode, it's like a video playing in our mind, and we can see all of the angles, we can see all of the experience, almost as if we're watching a TV show. And Spirit will use this to communicate with you. And again, knowing yourself, you will then be able to realize that actually, I'm not thinking this. I would never have, where's that come from? I would never have thought of that. Obviously, it is energy connecting with your vibration and building up some form of rapport and communication. Bearing in mind, it's good to have somebody around you that is paying attention, maybe a scribe, somebody that's writing the communications down. Well, you asked them this about 10 minutes ago, and now they're responding to you by showing you this. That's their answer. And so Spirit will work with symbolism. Now, symbolism is a language of its own, and we all have our own individual interpretations of symbolism. So it would be to your benefit to have an understanding of symbolisms and how they work and mean to you. I mean, for an example, one symbolism is a dog, and I use this in my development class. Now, they say that a dog is supposedly a man's best friend, or shall we reframe that? A companion, so that would be a form of symbolism, wouldn't it? A way that they could communicate. Maybe a handbell, that you would see in a church. The symbolism of that may be they're wanting to get your attention. Alarm bells, it could be frequency, could be anything. It's entirely up to you, but you must have an open mind where it comes to symbolism and investigate it. Keep going at it. Is it this? Does it mean that? And when you do get that alignment with the information that they're sharing with you, you get an eureka moment, and you'll feel that vibration. It will feel lighter. You'll feel that excitement in your voice. That is to let you know that, yes, that's correct. Another way that Spirit will communicate with you, again, we've mentioned them communicating with you directly, with thoughts, with that internal monologue. You may able to hear them with your physical ears, and it may just be the odd word or two. This is where the electronic devices will come in very handy, because you can obviously review the footage and get other people involved as well to inspect that. But talking about yourself as a transmitter and receiver, sensitive, if you will, then they may tell their story by overlaying you and putting some physical sensations on your body. Now, this can be misinterpreted from what I've observed over the years, particularly if you're quite a jumpy person and all of a sudden you're feeling normal. The next minute you feel like you've been punched in the stomach. And, no disrespect to those people that have this experience, but 9 times out of 10 they'll go, "Oh, it's just hit me, it's trying to hurt me." Not necessarily. If you're showing love and kindness and respect, that Spirit will be doing the same to you. You've asked for communication, and they're telling their story to you. So that brief feeling of being punched in the stomach potentially is them conveying their story to you. Maybe this was an ailment or an illness that they had that took them over into the world of spirit. And they're not doing it to hurt you. For a brief moment, they're overshadowing you, putting that experience on you so that they can communicate with you and share their story. Because Spirit will use the path of least resistance. I know I've mentioned the various forms that Spirit can work with you, but there will be the path of least resistance. So if you're an emotional person, they will use that first. If you're a very visual person, then they'll use symbolisms and use your third eye in your imagination first. If you're a thinker, then they will put those cognitive knowings within you as well. So you see, spirit, they will find a way to communicate with you. If you're lucky enough, they may be able to make sounds in the room, such as tapping, knocking. So do watch out for that, and always ask, if they prefer that form of communication, maybe one tap for yes, two taps for no. Also, how they can communicate is bringing fragrances and smells into the room. So, you could ask, is there anybody there? Do we have blah, 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 whoever you've invited to come forward there? And if it is you, can you bring forward a fragrance, a smell that is associated with you? So upon asking, obviously you've got to be very observant. These smells and aromas, they don't linger like they would for a long time in our dimension, but they come in bursts. So you may get a burst, 30-second, 20-second burst of this fragrance. So you've got to be on the ball, paying attention, and again, speak about it to those around you. I'm getting this. Are you experiencing that as well? Yes, I am. No, I'm not, and just investigate it. What does that smell remind you of? And again, using symbolism as well. What associations does that smell have with either a time period, a job, or it goes beyond just the initial trigger of the smell. Because like I said, spirit will use the path of least resistance to communicate with you. So if they can do it in one hit, they're going to do it in one hit by producing a smell. That smell reminds you of maybe, 1989, for example. This person could have passed in 1989. Who knows? You've got to explore and ask. Ask, when you do come up with these theories about the symbolism, ask the spirit involved, is that correct? Can you tap one knock for yes, two knocks for no, if that is correct or incorrect? And that will help you with your communication with spirit, regardless of whether they're energy, whether it's a paranormal investigation, or whether you're communicating with your ancestors in the world of spirit. But what you will find personally, I know that when I connect with my ancestors, my family members or friends in spirit, there's a different vibration entirely to the vibrations when I'm on paranormal investigations. It seems to come from the center of my heart space, and I have a knowingness that it is this family member, this deep connection, this embrace of unconditional love like nothing else you've ever experienced. My dad is the perfect example. When I know he's around, I just feel so calm, so relaxed. I just feel this unconditional vibration of love. And it's just beyond words. That's as far as I can go with it. It's literally beyond words. I can't give it a better description than that. It's just, if you know what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful sensation. So, like I say, they will use the path of least resistance in order to communicate with you and share their wisdom. So, with this being the case, just observe, understand the symbolism, and how you decode that information is also part of the process. And as we said earlier, it's not a race. I know a lot of people have got short attention spans. What I'm describing to you, this form of communication, it could take 3 hours. It could take 10 minutes. It just depends. You've just got to be patient, go with the flow, take notes, observe. Spirit will always come forward. You may not necessarily get the one that you've asked for, because as I say, we can't make demands. We can ask, we can put that invitation out there. And if they want to, and we're showing that love and respect and kindness, then with their free will, they have the choice to step forward and communicate with us. So be patient. And going along these lines of being patient, can I mention that when you understand the amount of effort that goes in from the world of spirit, from energy, to form this communication with yourself. I mean, to us, it might just sound like a knock, and we think, oh yeah, I just got a knock. But actually, it took a great amount of effort. You've got to think about vibrational alignment. It's almost like tuning into a radio. And we've all done that back in the day when it was analog, and we was turning that radio dial, and we was hearing a little bit of the show that we wanted to, but we was hearing an overshadowing of a different channel at the same time. And it caused this audible distortion. And it was frustrating because we weren't hearing it pure and strong. So we had to wait a little bit, tune the dial as best as we can to get the best signal. And it's like that for spirit. They have to match vibrationally. They have to lower their energy. And something that was mentioned to me by a spirit that entered my property many years ago now, she was saying, because it was her first time coming over, that from her perspective, it was like diving into a swimming pool, going to the bottom of that swimming pool and walking at the bottom of that swimming pool without floating up to the surface. As we know, it is very natural for us to float up to the surface when we're in a swimming pool. It's our natural state, isn't it? And so with spirit saying that, using that analogy, obviously they have to lower their vibration. So it's it goes against their energy is very high vibrational. They're just wanting to snap over and go to their high vibrations. So they have to do it with focus, with intention. And the environment, I believe, plays a role in this, so where you happen to be, the location, if there's an argument that's happened there in that building, then obviously that's going to make it even harder for them to come forward and match the frequencies of your intention. Also, your vibration, if you're feeling a little bit down in the dumps, even though you're projecting a positive vibration outwardly to the world, again, the true vibrations, energy doesn't lie. So they've got to bridge a connection with you and try and bypass those emotions. So they have that to consider. Also, there's a question of timing as well, intention, respect, love, their point of view, what are they doing? What is their soul fractals doing? Because as we know, we're not just one soul, we're made up of various fractals. Try and say the word, shall I? Fractals of soul energy. And we're experiencing different lifetimes, different experiences, all at the same time. So they've got to put their focus on one particular fractal of energy, the experience that you understand and recognize with them, particularly if you're connecting in with a loved one. So they have to dial in really, really deep. So something as simple as a knock coming from them, or the moving of some furniture or something like that, takes a great amount of focus and intention for them to do that. So when you realize that, it becomes amazing that you get just a little hello or hi, or, a feeling of love around you, because you value their efforts and the amount of energy that it takes for them to do that. And this is why, in many respects, when you're vibrating at love and at peace and harmony, and, you're projecting that out there, you feel very honored that they've taken that effort, that step to move forward and communicate with you on this level. It is certainly nothing to fear at all, because obviously, as we know, fear begets fear, and you're going to attract lower vibrations, and it's a lower based energy. So it's going to make it harder for spirit to come forward, particularly the ones that you are wanting to communicate with. So keep your energy buoyant, keep it love, keep it light, and keep that respect going. So you will appreciate it more when you do have some form of communication, now that you have, I would say, a basic understanding of what level it takes for them to come forward. Now, when you come to end your communication with spirit or energy, I would always suggest that you end it on a high note, just like you would with a physical person, right, okay, good luck, have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Something like that. That is ending things on a high note, isn't it? I thank you so much for this communication. Really enjoyed your company this evening. I love your story. Thank you for being open and honest with us here. We really, really do appreciate it. And end it on a high note, and they will respect and appreciate you for doing that as well, rather than, right, I'll see you then. I mean, you can notice the difference between both of those sentiments, can't you? So end it on a high note, express that gratitude, and then close down. That is very important. So closing down, if you're doing this in a paranormal setting, do it outside of the venue, maybe in the car, in the vehicle. Close, thank your guides, thank spirit, thank the energies that you've worked with, and then, ask for the energies to be closed down, and so that you can be more present. Some of you may have to do a long drive home after an investigation or wherever you're doing this experimental work. So it is important that you ask for closure, ask for protection, and that all connections from wherever these beings, the space, people, whoever, whatever you're doing, are severed in all dimensions, in all directions of time, so that you vibrate the vibration of love, light, peace, truth, and harmony, healing, wisdom, and evidential information wherever you shall go. So just a few pointers there. If you are considering reaching out to loved ones or connecting with spirit, whatever your project is, as a rule of thumb, the things that I've shared with you today are things that I do, and they get some marvelous results. But again, those key words that I would like to mention are: get to know yourself, baseline check, show respect, set intentions, protection, and then build up rapport. Listen and observe. And then, obviously, at the end there, close down with love and respect and gratitude. So if you can remember those as a rule of thumb, you won't go far wrong, and you'll have an amazing experience. Well, now we're going to head into the next segment of the show, which is this week's channeling from the world of spirit. Now, this is where I go into a relaxed state of consciousness and allow spirit to blend and overshadow my vibration in order to come forward and share their wisdoms and communications through. So, as you know, this is one of my favorite parts of the show because, like you guys and girls, I have no idea of who or what or whatever is going to come through in this segment. So I can't wait to listen back to this and see what's going to come through. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this section of the show, which again is this week's channeling from the world of spirit. So if you want to take notes, please feel free to do so. We are the collective known as Samson. We come here to deliver a message of hope. This message is regarding your financial system. As you know, we do not have such a thing in our collective. We operate by means of exchange of abilities and services, and giving is giving to all. It removes all forms of guilt, anxiety, and greed out of your Forgive us as we are adjusting to the vessel.
It removes all of these elements out of your society. So financial systems are very foreign to us, but we hear on good authority that your system, means of exchange, is on the cusp of changing. This will see the phasing out of physical paper or coins, and you will have a more transparent form of exchange, which will be mostly linked to a global currency where all will have more than equal means of exchange. However, we are working on this system behind the scenes to make it fairer for all, so that the assets and wealth is distributed equally. We understand that this will take some consideration with your human way of thinking. There is a fear-based energy attached to currency regarding lack of. So we have to remove those frequencies before we can make things align and balance equally. It will take some time in your dimension for this to occur. So please do not worry or fear, because you are adding to the complexity of the work and task that is at hand. But our message to you is to let you understand that you will all have a shared form of wealth where you will not have to worry or concern yourself about making ends meet to exist on your planet. You will all begin to focus on your divine given talents, and it is with these talents that you will also use as a form of currency. As we've mentioned, this is how we exist and share. And you will have a greater understanding of your higher self when you get to this level. We want to give you a sense of hope and understanding by saying 2 to 3 earthly years when you will see these dramatic changes for the better. In the meantime, we are bridging the gap and, as we say, eradicating the need for greed and fear. Those that do continue on the pathway of greed will move into a separate dimension away from the general population. They will still exist, but in their own timeline. The rest of your souls will work together in creating a harmonious global society where everybody and everything benefits. You will not comprehend the level of change that is about to occur, so we do not wish to add to your confusion at this time. But what we will say to you is there is no need to worry or stress. We ask you to focus upon your true highest calling, whatever that may be. And if you can, educate yourself around these matters and practice, for this will hold you in a strong and firm foundation moving forward. Many talk about a cashless society, and we say that that also is up for discussion. But anywhere there can be manipulation and diversion of sources of wealth, there will need to be energetic adjustments, and that is what we are currently working on behind the scenes. But abundance will be gifted. But you must understand yourself and your calling. This is why we say your God, your Creator-given gifts will be needed moving forward. So it is very important that you connect in with your true self through the vessel of the heart chakra and feeling into your truth. That is the biggest investment you could make at this moment in time. There will be those that will observe you as strange and peculiar for doing this, particularly where there are times of change and a lot of you are running around in fear. But our remaining words to you at this time are to trust and you have hope and understand that we are working behind the scenes to make your planet a fairer and juster society, where you are not a battery or a slave to the masters that call the shots in your society. Instead, you will live your lives as you see fit and what aligns with your true purpose and calling. But the start of this process began 2 years ago, and we say that around 2 to 3 years from the moment of this transmission, you'll notice a lot of these dramatic changes and shifts that we are describing to you. We are not in a position to give you ultimate details and facts around this because it is in the state of flux. In other words, things are continually changing and expanding in this area of your existence, but know that it is moving into a fairer and just base society, where things will seem rather strange, and a lot of you will have a sense of doubt in the beginning, worrying if it is for real and what is the catch. Where is the small print? We assure you that we are working on this to, as we say, eradicate fear and greed from your collective. We thank you for taking the time to align with our communication and to feel into the frequency codes that we are transmitting to you. We hope that the information finds you well and helps you to accept the abundance of these positive changes that are set to come in your planet. Thank you for listening. We have been the collective known as Samson.
Wow. Again, what an incredible communication there from the world of spirit. There's a lot to digest in that, isn't there? Anyway, we're going to move ahead with a sneaky peek into this week's energy forecast reading. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the little bit of information that's going to help and guide you through your week ahead. Hello, my name is Glenn Boddice and I'm a spiritual medium, and welcome to this week's energy forecast reading for the week commencing Monday, the 15th of December, 2025. Now, those of you that have watched me work before will know that I connect with my spirit guides and helpers and also consult the wisdom of the Angel Tarot cards. So what I'm about to do, shuffle a pack and ask for a card to come out for this week's forecast reading. Okay, so here is your card for this week's reading. I'm now going to link into the vibration on it. First of all, I'm being told to watch your emotions this week, as you will feel highly strung and highly sensitive. There's going to be lots of triggers that will light that litmus paper in terms of your sensitivity. So in order to help you with this, just take a big step back. Don't assign or attach your vibrations to the drama that seems to be happening around you at this moment in time. Also, watch out for a need to stretch. And what I mean by that is stretching your abilities. So taking yourself outside of your comfort zone, trying something new. And by doing that, you'll notice that minor miracles will start to enter your life as a result of that. Spreading your wings, so to speak, trying something different. Doesn't have to be dramatic, but I do feel as though these minor changes will start to occur in your timeline this week, particularly from... This is the end of the free version of the weekly forecast reading. If you would like to see the entirety of this week's forecast reading, then you can do that by subscribing. And as a subscriber, what you will receive is the full version of the weekly forecast reading. You will also receive the audio for the weekly radio show, and also you'll receive 10% off all of my spiritual services there. So this includes all of the readings there for you to benefit from. And also you will receive new updates and information and news of what's happening with myself and the services that I provide, and also the events that I take part in. You'll hear all about that ahead of everybody else. And this is because you're a subscriber to Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium. So you can find a link either above or below this video, where by clicking on the link, you can then become a subscriber to reap all of the benefits that I've described to you. So I look forward to having you on this journey with me as a Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium subscriber. Thank you for taking time to watch this video and supporting the work that Spirit and myself work together in doing so. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's show. I do hope you enjoyed the information that is influenced by Spirit or directly channeled from Spirit. If you have any questions you'd like to pose to the show, you can contact me at www.glennboddicespiritualmedium.com, or you can email me at glennboddice@live.co.uk. It would be amazing, as always, to have that interaction with you. In the meantime, I wish you a wonderful week ahead, whatever it is you have planned, and I hope you're not stressing too much about the festivities and you manage to get centered and get yourself dialed into your true authenticity. Join me next Monday, same place, same time. Have a blessed week, everybody. Take care, and bye for now. Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information about what products and services Glenn provides, go to Glenn Boddice Spiritual Medium